Still the Parshas Pinchas says Hashem says to Moshe, Alei har avarim, right? You have to go up to the mountain. I'll show you a bird's eye view of Eretz Yisrael, and then you have to pass on. You have to die, just like your brother, because of the sin that you hit the rock instead of speaking to the rock. You'd failed to make a Kiddush Hashem to sanctify my name, and so therefore it's time for you to go as well. So Moshe, of course, asks Hashem, Yifkad Hashem Elokei ruchot l'chol basar. Right, Hashem, can you please appoint a shepherd over the Jewish people that he'll know how to relate to each and every individual, strengthen him where he needs strengthening, just like I was a faithful shepherd. And Chazal tell us that Moshe Rabbeinu was he was lobbying for one of his sons to take over. Kadosh Baruch Hu said, no, that's not in the plan. Rather, he says, Kach lechat Yehoshua bin Nun. Take Yehoshua and Samachta, put your wisdom onto him. And it says that he did so. So Yehoshua was the successor to Moshe Rabbeinu. So there's a medrash that says that, first of all, the pasuk says that why was Yehoshua chosen? Ish asher ruach bo, because he has that same spirit to be a leader that you have. And the medrash says that when the people saw Moshe Rabbeinu and they saw Yehoshua, they saw an amazing contrast. They said that Pnei Moshe ki Pnei ha-chama, the face of Moshe is like the face of the sun, and the face of Yehoshua, Pnei Yehoshua, is like Pnei ha-yareach, or Pnei ha-levana. The face of Yehoshua is like the moon, which means that it was clear to everyone that as great as Yehoshua was, he wasn't the Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu had the brilliance shine like the brilliance of the sun, whereas Yehoshua shone with the brilliance of the moon. And then the Medrash continues and says, Oy lanu me'oto busha, oy lanu me'oto klima. The Medrash says, right, they said, the face of Moshe is like the face of the sun, the face of Yehoshua is like the face of the moon. Woe to our shame, woe to our embarrassment. So the question is, what does that mean? Like, what were they shameful of? I think the Chidah writes a beautiful idea. He says that, you look at a Moshe Rabbeinu, none of us think to ourselves, why aren't we like Moshe Rabbeinu? Even though there is a medrash that says that each person should have the ambition to be like a Moshe Rabbeinu, or to be like an Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. But most of us, if we look at Moshe Rabbeinu, we look at Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, we don't think to ourselves, wow, I'm jealous of Moshe Rabbeinu. Why not? Because you're only jealous of something that you think that you should have that as well. So if I felt that I had the potential to be a Moshe Rabbeinu, and I'm not, so then maybe I'll be jealous of Moshe and I'll say, wow, I could have been like Moshe. I don't think any of us have such a superiority complex that we would say, wow, why weren't we Moshe Rabbeinu? Why didn't Hashem choose us? We know, we're us. We're not Moshe Rabbeinu. And I'm sure that's what happened in everyone's mind, except for Korach. Korach had a Moshe complex. Korach thought he could be Moshe Rabbeinu, and we saw what happened to Korach. But all the other people at the time, they didn't covet. Aside from Korach, nobody coveted Moshe Rabbeinu's role, because everyone knew Moshe Rabbeinu was Moshe Rabbeinu. He was way beyond everyone else. But when they saw that Yehoshua didn't have the same brilliance as Moshe, Yehoshua had the light of the moon. And despite that, they saw that Yehoshua became the leader. Yehoshua received greatness. Then they said, wow, you know what? That's something that we are jealous of, in a good way. Meaning that what? I can't be a Moshe Rabbeinu, but I could have been like Yehoshua. Why? Why did the people think they could have been Yehoshua? Because what was Yehoshua after all? If we looked at Yehoshua before he was picked as leader, what was Yehoshua doing? Chazal tells Yehoshua stayed in the base medrash after everyone left, and he cleaned up the Svarim. He swept the floor, he put the books back on the shelf, right? He was the janitor, as they'd say. He was the custodian. And so when people saw, wow, a custodian could be the successor to Moshe Rabbeinu, wow. If Yehoshua could succeed and take over after Moshe Rabbeinu, why didn't we try harder? That was the bush and klima. That was the shame, the embarrassment. Nobody felt embarrassed for Moshe Rabbeinu. I can't be a Moshe Rabbeinu, but could I be a Yehoshua? Sure. Anyone back then could have been Yehoshua. Why? Because Yehoshua wasn't the only one that actually sat in the Beit Midrash, in the tent, and learned Torah. A lot of people did. You had the 70 elders. How come they were not picked to be the leader? could very well be that one of those 70 leaders was wiser than Yeshua. The Medrash says, because Yeshua is the one that cleaned up afterwards. Yeshua showed his tremendous dedication to Torah. That he stayed back afterwards and he arranged the books and he swept the floor. So what do you see over here? You see over here that what makes a person great is not necessarily great action. What makes a person great are the little actions, the little things that he does, right? You don't have to part the Red Sea in order to become a leader of the Jewish people. That none of us could do. Only Moshe Rabbeinu could do that. But when they saw, there was nothing special about Yeshua. That's why when they saw that Yeshua, even though he only had the light of the moon, he wasn't a Moshe Rabbeinu, but yet he was elevated to greatness because of the little things that he did, the unremarkable things that he did on a day-to-day basis. That's what made him a great person. You know that you find that if you've read any of the biography of Gedolim, of great rabbis in the previous generation. I remember the very, very first book, I think of its kind, that ever came out, that I recall, from Feldheim, about a biography about a great individual was called All for the Boss. It was the daughter of Rav Yaakov Yosef Herman, who grew up in the Lower East Side in New York. He was a businessman, a very frum Jew. He was a tremendous machnes areach. He had tons of guests at his house. And she wrote a book. And what was unique about that book was, I think it's the first book that was written, it might not have been the first book that was written by a Gadol Hador, by like a Moshe Rabbeinu of the generation. But it was the first book that was written about a Yehoshua of the generation. Someone that he wasn't famous as a Rosh Yeshiva, as a tremendous rabbi. But it was the little things that he did that made him great. Even today, also, when you read about books about famous personas like Rav Moshe Feinstein, Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky, a lot of the great Rosh Yeshiva and poskim of the past, you read the books and you see in the book, it's not like these people were born geniuses. They weren't born with a halo around their head. Moshe Rabbeinu was born with a light. When he was born, there was a light that filled the basket. Right? They didn't say that about Rav Moshe Feinstein or Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky or about any of the others. You read the books and you realize these were normal people. A lot of these people that were born and raised, or at least raised in America, they played baseball, they played sports when they were younger, and they grew to be great Talmidei Chachamim and great Jewish leaders. And the thing is that you see from over here is that what makes a person great is not that he was born great. He was born a regular person. First was born a regular person, had a regular upbringing as a nice American boy, playing sports, playing baseball, going to regular day school. Sometimes it wasn't even Jewish day school. And he only learned Torah. There were no Jewish day schools a lot in many cities back then. And yet he was able to make the correct choices day in and day out over a course of 40, 50, 60 years until one day he became great. He became the person becomes the greatest Jewish leader of the entire America or the entire world. And that's what Yeshua teaches us. And that's why they were ashamed, because they realize now that although not everyone could be a Moshe Rabbeinu, none of us could be a Moshe Rabbeinu, we could all be a Yeshua. We could all choose to live great lives. And that doesn't mean that you have to always be doing great things to lead a great life. It could be the small things that a person does that makes a person over the course of time great. So we should learn not from those leaders that are way beyond our grasp, but we should learn from the leaders of yesteryear, the leaders of today, that any one of us could choose a path of greatness by choosing to always make the correct decisions in life, by following the Torah and by following the mitzvahs.